This case starts off looking like a simple zoning dispute, but don't let that fool you. What unfolds here is a legal tug of war between property rights, safety regulations, and bureaucratic red tape. On one side, you've got homeowners trying to use their land the way they always have. On the other, the township enforcing strict zoning laws that could force them to tear everything down. And just when it seems like there might be a solution, things take a sharp turn. Failed permits, legal loopholes, and a judge trying to balance fairness with the law. This one is packed with tension. The real question is, should long-standing use win, or does the law come first no matter what?
We have everybody we need but Mr. Spiegel. Hopefully he'll be joining us in a minute. The McLeans are here with me live in the courtroom. And there are also some observers who were interested in this matter. Here's Doug Coleman.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. We've got all the players we need but one, so we're waiting just a moment for him to join us.
We met with him a few days ago. He said he'd be.
Oh, I'm sure he'll be here. Zoom has changed the practice of law in a lot of fields, but many hearings are done by Zoom. And so lawyers can come in from their office without the commute time adding to the day and adding to the bill. He's not here yet. Call this the world's most boringest live stream, although it was even more boring when I left the camera on all night the other night and it showed an empty desk with the lights turned off. The only exciting thing was when the janitor came in the night to watch, but it changed the thing. It has almost 6,000 views. More people want to watch that than watch some actual court proceedings, so I'm not sure what to make of that, but that's even more boring than are sometimes just sitting here waiting.
It's encouraging to know that even people who deal with all this technology have moments.
Well, I had a very long day. I had a hearing in what I referred to as the bed bug case and was making some notes, and I got interrupted by some questions, and then I just forgot to turn it off. It shuts itself off eventually, but I had just restarted it, so it probably ran till about 3 o'clock in the morning.
What it saying to them.
His intention was to be here by Zoom, not live.
Yes.
Okay. Well, he zoomed in here dozens of times in the past. Here he is. When we turn the record on. Is the thing still locked?
I need somebody to talk over here.
Me? Me to talk?
Tap the microphone. It's still locked. I'll lock it on now.
Red.
We've been having some difficulty with our camera triggers. Good afternoon, Mr. Spiegel. We all been sitting here in awkward silence for 3 or 4 minutes waiting for you to join us. But everybody else is here and we're uh, ready to go.
Yeah, my apologies. My Zoom was, I was logged into an earlier meeting and had to reset things. Sorry.
Well, we're talking about the wonders of technology. Sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it's a curse. This is a status conference, as I scheduled it, in the matter of Mary Ann McLean and also Gary McLean, residents at 15271 Moon Lake Road, Three Rivers in Fabius Township. Case numbers are 251467 and 251466. The McLeans are here with me live in the courtroom. Also present is attorney Aaron Geschwint on behalf of Fabius Township, and by special appearance from retirement, Douglas Kuhlman, former zoning administrator in Fabius Township, and Nicholas Spiegel on behalf of the McLeans. We had a very busy day on December 17th, right before Christmas, and I thought we made quite a bit of progress. Ms. Geschwint proposed, or somebody proposed, a settlement or a solution that could solve this problem. And so the plaintiffs were going to apply for migrant dwelling status for this facility, which could potentially meet their requirements and the township's requirements. So I continued the matter until today, calling it a status conference, and said it could be done by Zoom. And certainly people can always choose to come in live, and the McLeans are here. So Ms. Geschwint, let me defer to you first. What's the status of the case at this time?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I did have the opportunity to speak with Mr. Spiegel prior to this hearing. It sounds like the defendants did apply for the migrant housing permit through the state. It does sound like the state denied them as they were not qualified. So at this time, if we want to go forward with any legal argument, I would be ready for that. However, if the court needs more testimony, I would need to subpoena Joe Wiki.
Well, this was only set as a status conference to see what our next move was. I was very hopeful this could solve our problem. Mr. Spiegel, what's your understanding?
Yeah, unfortunately, and I think there was some concern voiced about this in December. We just weren't sure if we fit the rubric of what that program allows for. After checking into it and trying to get housed under it, as it were, it turns out that we are not eligible to utilize that exemption or special use. So I agree with
grants that exemption.
I'm sorry, what's that, Your Honor?
Who grants that exemption?
I had the email pulled up here a minute ago, but there was some correspondence back and forth with my client. The gentleman's name was. Mary, do you remember who you were corresponding with?
Kowalski, Mr.
What
Kowalski.
agency is he with?
He's with the state for migrant housing.
All right.
And so, Your Honor, I don't know if we've had 2 days, one day that preceded my involvement in this case of hearings already on this matter. I don't know if there's additional proofs the court wants before making any decision. Ms. Geschwint and I did discuss a possible resolution that neither of us, I don't think, have had the chance to fully vet out with our clients, which basically has to do with some maybe some building code issues that maybe could be a possible, if those could be resolved or addressed, then that could be a possible avenue forward. Although again, we need to both explore that a little more, I think, based on our conversation. So I don't know if it makes sense. Her and I talked about the idea of, do we continue this yet again, or do we just put our chips on the table and let the court make its decision and go from there?
Well, I wasn't looking forward to ordering them to tear all this nice construction out of there. What they described, what they were looking for, was essentially temporary farm help labor, housing for that purpose. Well, let's just, Ms. McLean, Mr. McLean, Mr. Kuhlman, everyone please raise your right hand. And you'll swear or affirm any testimony you're about to give in this matter will be true to the best of your knowledge and belief.
Yes,
So Ms. McLean, you held up your end of the deal and you applied with the Migrant Housing Commission. I assume there were some forms to fill out and that sort of thing.
they would never let me get to that point. I did have 3 phone conversations with him, and then he wrote a long letter as to why we didn't qualify. You have to have at least 5 people in it. Our operation, there's no way I could have 5 people.
All right.
And I did learn that they can come from White Pigeon and be a migrant. It doesn't have to be what I thought of as a migrant. But
But you have to have 5 people.
no less than 5 people, and
No,
kind of implorable conditions. You have to provide water within 50 feet of wherever they're camping or staying. We have actual housing, and
yeah, I understand. This is a nice apartment, but their guidelines for that particular exception require at least 5 people.
and he didn't know of any that the state would do too, but he did refer me to the right to farm and the GAMPS, I think he called it, for farm housing. So, which kind of is what we've said all along and have done since 1993. Have temporary people stay in a nicer place.
All right, so that exception isn't gonna solve our problems. So the 2 of you have been working on another potential solution.
Correct.
Yes, but I think it needs a little more vetting, I guess, for lack of a better term, to figure out exactly what the building code issues that the township's worried about are and whether we would be agreeable to addressing them as a resolution.
I did reach out to Mr. Wiki, the township, over a month ago and email back and forth, and he absolutely refused to come out and do any kind of an inspection unless we pulled a new building permit, which we're not doing new construction, so he said we couldn't do.
Right, and so again, that's what Ms. Geschwint and I are trying to figure out if we can do that without a new permit per se.
I don't know the answer to that. It wouldn't seem like you'd need to pull a new permit, although I don't know what the township's procedure is on doing those type of inspections. Doug, do you have a take on that? Your mic's on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, basically a permit authorizes the building department to come onto the property and do inspections. Even if it's a renovation inspection, it's not necessarily a new construction inspection. It just gives them the authority to enter the property and do what they're entitled to do. And Mr. Wiki contacted me and knowing that this was a court case, he was not going to get in the middle of litigation without some type of permit in process to go out and do some kind of inspection for them. If the attorneys come up with some type of a solution and the attorneys need Joe to go out there and do kind of a overall inspection as to what he sees as potential issues, if there are any, I am sure Joe would do that without a permit.
Ms. Geschwint, what's your view of this?
Yeah, I know that at one point there was a report from, a 2017 inspection that indicated that there were, improperly installed gas lines, electrical panels not allowing access, improperly installed firewall. But we don't really know where it is right now. Quite frankly, I understand, that there's not even supposed to be a, secondary dwelling unit on the property per the zoning code. There's significant case law that would indicate latches may not apply in this situation. So I think that, if we move past the zoning issue in and of itself, in order to allow a human being to dwell in this structure, and I'm not conceding the zoning violation by any means, but I'm just saying if we move past that, we need to at least make sure that this building would be safe for human habitation. And really the only person that can determine that is, would be the building inspector in this case.
I guess just briefly, Your Honor, obviously we feel differently about what the permits from the 90s mean. And
Well, let's assume that there's a way to do this, and you obviously have a different view of it. Latches, for those of you that don't know, probably none of you know, is an old legal theory that essentially after a certain passage of time, that too much time has passed, the matter should just remain as it is. That due to lack of action by the government or other agency, the alleged wrong. Caregivers recently died in a fire on some property that was not safe. just on the east side of Three Rivers, and some property I'd been involved in things in that very neighborhood. And a lady was burned up in a small trailer, I think, or maybe she was in the house. Anyway, so there's that. So that's why you would be seeking an inspection to see whether the other code violations are made. We had a case once at Pleasant Lake, Mr. Kuhlman will remember this case, where they did a bunch of stuff to the house and then put the drywall up. The guy also like cut the trusses out. He got up in the ceiling and cut the trusses out because he wanted to hang some exercise equipment or something. So the roof didn't collapse. The problem was we had to take the drywall off and once it was removed, there were substantial problems behind the walls. Hopefully that isn't the circumstance here.
Could expound on that.
Yes.
When our son Kurt was working on the farm and staying out there, he had a small fire because he wanted to build a more efficient little box for heating out there without us knowing it. And there was a fire, and it was on Christmas Day about 10 years ago, and everyone had had enough of their families. So literally everybody from town was there. Long story short, there was no structural damage because of the way we had built it from the beginning with a double 5/8 and a layer of metal. And I don't remember all the whatevers, but Chauncey Hackenberg was the state inspector. And because he grew up right next to us on Wilbur Road, he spent more time just coming back to visit and stuff. So he was there during the whole process. We didn't obtain another building permit. I didn't know we had to, since Chauncey said we didn't have to, but he was there during the replacement of the fixtures and the cleaning up of the smoke damage and stuff. But all the walls were open when we originally built, and Mr. Hawley inspected all the electrical. None
All
of
right,
that
well,
was touched.
you've got some documentation from the past. I don't know how much more testimony I need. I think this property is not in compliance. The underlying problem is that almost every township does not allow two residential properties on the same parcel. And we discussed issues about wells and septic systems, and we explored some of those issues. But this isn't something they just slapped up. It's a nice apartment. And we've had a number of these over the years. So I was looking for, and it's a absurd thing that if you had 5 people in there or 10, you could do it. But if you have 1 or 2, you can't, which certainly makes this all malum prohibitum rather than bad in and of itself. If it was legal, if you had 6 people there, but it's not legal if you have 2, tend to wonder what it is the state's trying to regulate. But who proposed the solution? You, Mr. Spiegel, or Ms. Geschwind?
I think Ms. Geschwind kind of put it out there. And again, to be fair, I don't think she's saying that necessarily will do it. But the idea being, let's get the building inspector out there, identify, and again, I'm going to try to explain while not advocating too much, but point out what the current day issues would be with its habitability. Of course, our position would be it's been permitted since the 90s. And that's, we don't have to update it just because they feel like it if we haven't expanded that. But to try to resolve it, bring it up to sort of modern standards, whatever those may be, if necessary. And if my people would be willing to do those checklist items as a resolution to allowing this to be utilized as a unit as described in the testimony prior.
And you haven't really had an opportunity to discuss that proposal with your clients.
Correct. I gave them a call. We hadn't managed to sync up on that. So again, and I mean, I look at it this way. I mean, going out and taking a look, I don't see the problem with. I can't sit there and say I know for sure. If they come back with a list of 37 things, I don't think we're going to be willing to do that. And we'd probably say, make a decision. But if it's a few things that we can rectify or address, and everybody feels happier and more secure that anybody in there isn't going to be burnt up, as the court described, maybe that is a path we could take forward.
Well, Ms. McLean went as far as calling the inspector and asking him to come, but he wouldn't come.
Right.
So what do we need to do to make it that the inspector would come and do the inspection?
I presume based on what Mr. Coolman just said, and I think it makes a lot of sense and what I expected is that he didn't want to do it without having sort of the legal piece of paper saying he could do it, but I assume if the attorneys agree with the consent of their clients that they can do it, then they'll come out and he'll look at it and he'll make his findings and say, this is what I want addressed. That's what I guess.
How about if I order it? I direct Inspector Wiki to
Wiki.
go out with the consent of the homeowners and inspect and see, maybe it's all in compliance, maybe there are a couple things that need to be done, maybe it's big problems, but right now we're just guessing. I want to call you Miss Wordleman, Miss McLean. So you called Joe Wiki to come out and do this inspection?
Emails a couple of times, and Doug again has put roadblocks in. I try to expedite.
So are you
this.
willing to have him come in and do it?
Absolutely. If there's anything possible that isn't safe, we wouldn't want it. It's full of smoke detectors that tie to our phone and everything, and we try to do everything as safe as possible. As a paramedic early in life, I saw too much.
All right, I'm gonna direct that the township direct Joe Wiki to go out and do an inspection of this property, mechanical, electrical, plumbing issues. I hope he doesn't find any, or at least not very many. Then we can see where we are. Township at this point hasn't conceded the whole fundamental issue, but let's see what we got.
Judge, may
Your
I
Honor,
ask
would
you-
you like just Joe Wiki or would you like Ron Belair and John Dobertine
Yeah,
as well?
that's what I was gonna ask. Can we direct the appropriate inspector? Because it's not gonna be just Mr. Wiki, it's gonna be Mr. Belair and a couple others as well.
Yes,
Thank you. And then would the court like a briefing on the preliminary zoning issue?
that could be helpful, yes.
Thank you.
I didn't save these on the live stream to review, but they are recorded. And so I'd have to go back and watch a lot of testimony to refresh my memory, but briefing would be very helpful.
Thank you.
How long, there's no urgency here. Right now, there's nobody in there. I don't think it's a fire or health hazard. Ms. McLean did what she said she was gonna do. She called the state migrant housing department. She called the inspector. So I'm not concerned about kicking the can down the road a little bit farther. But we did 60 days and we made some progress. Today is March 11th. 60 days from now would be May 13. Do we think we could get these inspections accomplished by then?
I
I
believe
believe
so.
so, Your Honor.
Yeah, well, is there a cost for this?
That's a good question. Is there a cost?
Your Honor, I will speak on behalf of the township, as I do have the authority. I will speak on behalf of the township that to try to get resolution to this, our inspectors will do it at no cost to the property owner.
Thank you.
All right, that's a plus. Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
I'm talking on cost and that. My attorney fees have surpassed my year of Social Security. We're in the 2026 growing season. We've had no help on our farm. We're not gonna be able to put in crops and do things. if we
Well, I don't, you want me to do it sooner than 60 days?
Spring has sprung. I mean, we need help. We're in cancer treatments and
I understand. But I don't, I'm gone on April 15th. The other thing is, I have almost every hour of every day scheduled with something. It's very hard to find a large block of time. I've been assigned to a case in another county. So May 13th is open for this sort of thing. So you can't plant something unless you have somebody living in this property?
to help with equipment and getting in and out of the tractors and stuff.
All right, so there's no other option from that?
That's why we've had farm housing from the very beginning.
So that last lady that was living there wasn't farm housing.
No,
She was
that
just a
was-
sad
that was
sack
my mistake
operation.
for letting her in there when we didn't need anybody in January.
Well,
That was bad.
we're gonna stay with that date. Township's gonna absorb the cost for this. We're gonna continue this to, now, lawyers cost money. And I don't want to deny it, but when zoning people are trying to represent themselves, they're at a huge disadvantage. And Mr. Spiegel's experience in this case, I had another case where Mr. Soltis came in late in the game. And if he'd come in at the beginning, the case probably would be resolved. I told the Yoders more than a few times they needed a lawyer. So I am sorry, lawyers don't work for free, neither do plumbers or electricians or anybody else, but it is, I think, to your advantage to have competent counsel here.
We agree.
I'm gonna continue to May 13th, 2026 at 1:15. I think everybody's looking for a solution here. I was dreading the thought of having to have you tear all this out of there. At one point, that was what the township was asking for. They may go back to that. Trying to find a solution that they can live with and you can live with. Sometimes that's a tightrope that's hard to walk. But let's get it inspected to see if it's safe, and if it isn't, what needs to be done to bring it into compliance. And then perhaps we can work on a solution. Or you can have 10 people move in there and get a migrant housing exemption.
It's a mess right now because of our squatter, and I emailed Doug in December and asked if we could do work on it. We weren't comfortable doing it
Have you
until
got her stuff out of there?
the stuff is removed, but there's damage to the floors and water and
Well,
she
you're
did her
gonna
best
wanna
to
get that
destroy it.
fixed anyway, and I guess maybe they can tell you what you would need to fix to bring it into compliance. I'm looking for a solution, and I don't know if that's possible, but both attorneys are willing to bend a little bit. Maybe we can get where we need to be. So it'll be another status conference via Zoom. You're all welcome to come live if you want to. The attorneys, Mr. Coleman, the inspectors can all appear by Zoom or live, either way, but I'm not compelling you to be here. If we can come up with a solution at that time, we'll do it. If not, we'll set a hearing regarding ruling. Ms. Geschwint proposes the parties. Aaron, I don't want to put you to all the work of briefing this right now if we're gonna settle it after this inspection. So let's wait till the May 13th. If it isn't resolved, I could ask it to be briefed at that time.
That was my question. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna get it inspected. See what is what. I wonder how my house would do if I had inspectors come in right now and go through it with a fine tooth comb. Hopefully it would pass, but you never know.
We can
Things
arrange that if
change.
you'd like, Your Honor.
Yes. Thank you for that generous offer, but I'll hope for the best.
Maybe that does raise a point of clarity. I think we all agree
Yes.
we're not renting the main unit. That's not happening, and we're not trying to do that. The inspection is only on for the ancillary unit, right? That's what we're talking about.
That's correct.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Making sure.
Their house seemed, it all looked very nice, but no, this is just the ancillary unit.
What time did you decide on the 13th, Your Honor?
1:15, just like today.
Thank you.
All right, anybody have anything else we should put on the record here?
Nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor.
Nothing.
All right, thank you. All right, let's hope for some results that get us closer to the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give you a call, Aaron.
All right, thank you.
What makes this case so compelling is that it's not just about zoning, it's about real-life consequences. The judge is clearly trying to avoid the worst-case scenario, which would be forcing the homeowners to tear down a fully built structure. Instead, he takes a balanced approach: order an inspection, gather facts, and buy time for a possible resolution. Legally, this is significant because it shows how courts can prioritize practical solutions over rigid enforcement, especially when safety and long-term use are involved. But at the same time, the underlying issue remains unresolved. Can you bypass zoning restrictions just because something has existed for years? Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the judge made the right call by giving them another chance, or should the law be enforced strictly no matter what? And if you found this case as shocking as we did, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping courtroom breakdowns.